The road to the River of Beauty was not marked on any map, nor did anyone they asked give clear directions. Some said it was a myth, a tale for children. Others warned them never to search for it, that many had tried, but none had returned the same. But Sedoo and Sewuese were not like others. Their pain had made them determined. The first challenge came on the third day. They reached a thick forest called Kyover, which was said to be guarded by unseen spirits. At night, the trees whispered. Branches scratched like claws against their backs. Their lantern burned out too quickly, and for hours they sat in the dark, holding hands, listening to footsteps that never appeared. "I'm scared," Sewuese whispered. Sedoo squeezed her hand. "Me too. But we didn't come this far to turn back." The next morning they found that they had run out of food and water. Still they moved forward. By the sixth day their feet bled. Their wrappers were torn and hunger clawed at their stomachs like a wild animal. They begged for food at a small village they stumbled upon. But when the villagers saw their raw faces and tired eyes, they were chased off with insult. "Witches, go away before your ugliness spreads to our children." Tears burned down their dusty cheeks. They didn't respond. They just kept walking. On the ninth day, rain poured like punishment from the sky. Thunder growled. They had no shelter, only a mango tree they crashed under. Sewuese shivered violently. Her lips turned blue. Suddenly, mango fruit started falling down from the tree. It felt like a messenger from heaven. They picked it up and ate. They gathered some to take with them. Sedoo held her close. "We will survive. Do you hear me? We will survive this." But inside, she was breaking. That night, Sewuese dreamed of their mother. She stood by a silver stream, smiling gently. "You're closer than you think," her voice echoed. But not everyone who finds the river sees their reflection. The dream shook Sewuese awake. She told Sedoo everything. The next morning, they found an old hunter resting under a giant tree. His beard was white, and his eyes sharp like someone who had seen too much of life. When they greeted him and asked about the River of Beauty, he said nothing for a long time. Then he finally spoke. "The river is real, but it's not what you expect, and it does not show you what you want to see. It shows you the truth. Then it leaves you to decide what to do with it. Do you know where it is?" Sedoo asked, desperate. The hunter nodded. "Follow the path that the sun touches last. When you hear no sounds, no birds, no wind, not your own thoughts, you will be near." He stood, slung his bag over his shoulder, and walked away without another word. The sisters followed the sun, their bodies weak, legs trembling, but their hearts unshaken. As the wind grew still and the air turned oddly quiet, they began to believe. They were finally getting close. But little did they know, the final challenge would not be a storm or hunger. It would be the river itself, and the truth it was waiting to show them. By the 12th day, the sun dipped low, painting the sky in soft amber. The silence was deafening. No birds sang, no insects buzzed. Even the crunch of dry leaves beneath their feet seemed to vanish into the still air. Then through a curtain of mist they saw it. A narrow clearing opened before them, and there it was, the River of Beauty. It was not wide or grand as they had imagined. It was quiet, gentle. The water was so clear it looked like glass reflecting the trees, the sky, and them. Sedoo and Sewuese stood at the edge, breathless. "We found it," Sewuese whispered, but they remembered their mother's story. "You don't touch the river. You don't bathe in it. You only look just once. If your heart is true, the river will reveal your real beauty." Sedoo stepped forward first, knelt, and gazed into the water. She gasped. She saw herself. No pimples, no rough skin, no crooked nose. Her face was clear, her eyes bright, and her smile soft, kind, radiant. Then tears spilled down her cheeks. Not because she saw something new, but because she saw the person she had always been, hidden beneath years of rejection and mockery. Sewuese did the same. She trembled. In her reflection, she looked like someone who had never been called ugly, someone who had never been mocked at the market. She looked beautiful. But just as she was about to smile, the river's reflection rippled, and she saw another version of herself, one hardened by bitterness, by anger, by pride. Then, in a flash, both sisters saw themselves side by side. Who they were, and who they had become to survive. The river was not only showing them beauty, it was showing them truth. They sat beside the river for a long time, saying nothing. That night they didn't sleep. They just listened to the stillness and thought about everything, the pain, the strength, the village, the old woman who won them. By morning the mist had returned. They stood, looked back once at the river, and then walked into the trees, sad, disappointed, and worried about their return to their village. On their way back, they saw a mysterious old woman passing by, and they greeted her. The old woman turned and looked at them. "My children, why are you looking so sad and walking alone in this lonely forest?" she asked. They answered the old woman by explaining to her the humiliation they face in their village and why they travel this far. The old woman answered, "What you seek in the river of beauty, I can give it for free, but with a heavy price." Sedoo and Sewuese were desperate again and immediately asked what the price was. The old woman told them that they would have to sacrifice their love for each other. "You must live apart for the rest of your lives. The day you see each other, you will vanish forever." The price was too heavy, and they knew they couldn't stay away from each other. Their bond was everything they had. Losing was like losing their life. They thanked the old woman and left. Sedoo and Sewuese never returned to Boko, and in their absence, the village changed. The gossip faded. The mocking stopped. Children who once threw stones now told stories about the brave sisters who left to find the river of beauty and never came back. And though no one admitted it aloud, the villagers carried a quiet, lasting regret. They had pushed two kind-hearted girls to the edge and lost them forever. As the sun rose the next morning, Sedoo and Sewuese sat quietly by the river of beauty, their feet dangling over the edge, watching ripples dance across the surface. They had seen their true selves, not just what they looked like, but who they were. The river had stripped away the layers of makeup, sarcasm, and pain, and shown them the kindness, strength, and love they carried within. The beauty they were looking for was different from what the river offers. It was the first time in years they felt peace. "I don't want to be angry anymore," Sewuese whispered. Sedoo nodded. "I don't want to keep pretending I'm not hurting." They had a long conversation deeper than any they'd ever had about their pain, about the village that never gave them a chance, and about how they couldn't live in Boko anymore. It wasn't safe, not just physically but emotionally. Their hearts needed healing. Then they remembered a small village their mother used to talk about, Wanyan, her hometown. A quiet place surrounded by hills and farmland where their grandmother still lived. Their mother once said, "If the world turns against you, you will welcome you." That was where they needed to go. So they journeyed again. Weaker in body but stronger in spirit. The path to Wanyan was long, but not as heavy as the one they had taken before. Along the way they shared laughter. They told stories. They no longer spoke with bitterness, but with grace. When they arrived in Wanyan, their grandmother was sitting outside weaving mats. She looked up and gasped, "Sedoo, Sewuese." The girls dropped their bags and ran into her arms, crying. She held them tightly, her old hands soft and strong. "You're home now. You're safe." And she meant it. The villagers in Wanyan were different. They had heard whispers of the girls from Boko, the iconic sisters people once mocked. But here, no one cared how they looked. They were greeted with kindness, offered food and place to rest. The market women smiled at them. The children played near them, laughing freely. Sedoo and Sewuese began a new life. They helped their grandmother on the farm. They joined the women's co-op slowly. Their confidence returned, not built on false beauty or painted faces, but on self-worth. They wore their scars with pride. And even though they still felt the ache of rejection from their old village, they no longer let it define them. They had finally learned to love themselves. And in Wanyan, they were loved deeply.